Hello and welcome to Tech Stage. In today's episode, we are going to cover a subject that is near to my heart, none other than IoT, the Internet of Things. And to navigate through this journey, we have joining us a telco veteran and rebel that has been in the industry for many years and has been the voice of IoT within the telco community for just as long. We're going to discuss the release of his new book, IoT, the hype that nobody knows about. And we're going to look at how IoT needs a reality check and why the next big thing still isn't big. At the same time, we're going to look at things like what AI has done successfully that the IoT ecosystem missed and how we can learn from that in order to continue growing and propagating both the services and the awareness around the Internet of Things. Please join me to welcome none other than Afzal Mangal to Tech Stage. So, welcome to Tech Stage. It's good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. It's been a while. We've done this a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
And I'm happy that we still have, because we already talked a lot, but we still have a lot of things to talk about.
I'm really excited because you like to say what others don't, which is something I really value myself. That's why I called you the Telco Rebel. A lot of people think what you say, but nobody has the guts to say it out loud. You recently wrote your second book, IoT, the hype that no one knows about. I found your book fascinating, and without giving it all away, I would like us to first officially introduce yourself to our audience because perhaps not everybody knows you. Then let's get into the book and the juicy bits.
Great. So now it's the moment that I should start talking about myself, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So again, thanks for having me, Nasia. Super honored and excited to do this together with you. And for the people, my name is Afzal. I live in the Netherlands, father of two girls, and I'm in telco industry for more or less 15 or 16 years, and specifically in IoT since 2017. Those moments when we started the conversations about low power wide area communication, a very exciting time. Working for Deutsche Telekom, I have the honor to run a corporate startup which is called IoTcreators.com. It focuses on the IoT developer, the IoT maker, or the companies who want to start small. I've been doing that for a couple of years, so I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot happening, I've seen a lot not happening, and that's why I wrote a book.
Fantastic. And if you were to give us like a Twitter version of what your book is about, what would that be?
The book is about, it answers the question why IoT adoption didn't go as fast as we thought and as fast as we wanted. It is basically written for those people who are intrinsically motivated to
Mhm.
scale IoT,
Mhm.
and also those people who want to hear something different than IoT doesn't scale that fast because of technology limitations, because of fragmentation.
So we've both been in the industry for a very long time, looking at very similar things, creating startups within the IoT ecosystem. And what I'm seeing throughout the context of your book is really a reality check of what is happening within our industry in a practical way. So, the main question that a lot of us have is we've been saying for many years that IoT is the next big thing.
Yeah,
How we're still waiting for this big thing to become big.
yeah, yeah. And You said you just gave me some food for thought because you said reality check, and when you said that, I started to wonder, do people know that they need a reality check?
Ah, if
Because
you're asking me, I would say not many do.
no, because for me it was not a reality check. For me, was it like was writing about this reality because I was
Hmm.
facing the reality already for a long time, at least that is my experience in IoT.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember when we first met, we spoke about the a very common problem in IoT. That was the fact that we did a lot of pilots,
Hmm.
but after the pilots, even when they were successful, they didn't proceed. Like the end customer,
Right.
the scaling phase, right?
Hmm.
And the most common problem was that they liked the solution, but they didn't like all the change that they had to bring and embrace in the organization.
Hmm.
And for a couple of years, I thought that this was our biggest problem. And I met you, and you recognized the problem, but you were just one of the 4 or 5 people around me who recognized the problem. I saw lots of people in the IoT industry neglecting and
Hmm.
the problem. Like basically, the book is all about trying to sell a solution. You're trying to sell a band-aid who doesn't realize that they have a wound,
Hmm.
right? So you can have a wound, but you can neglect it, you can ignore it, and you can be like, I don't consider it a problem. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
do anything about it. And that's where we are when it comes to selling or implementing IoT solutions.
Hmm.
And you just said reality check, and I just realized, do people in our industry know that we have a problem?
Very few do, Afzal,
Yeah,
based on the conversations that I've had myself over the years. Even after all this time, I don't think they recognize that there is an inherent problem that needs to be solved. To give you an example, I do a lot of consulting work around IoT enablement and IoT readiness for organizations that want to adopt IoT specific or connected services, right? So, one of the key things that I always talk to them about is that they have to look in two different fronts, internally and externally, because most of them are looking to create a solution for their customers. How can they understand how something works if they haven't fixed internally their challenges to optimize or to create IoT and connected services for their own organization as well? What IoT solves is both internal and external. And it has different ways and streams that it needs to be approached and looked at, and the resources that are required. If they look at it internally first, and fix their challenges that they're facing internally. Imagine how much easier it will be for them to create products for their customers because then they understand what's happening, they understand the value, and they understand what they need to do in order to market it effectively. Many of us need a reality check when it comes to IoT. It is, like you said, the hype that nobody really talks about,
yeah,
best well kept secret. Amazing companies out there, amazing solutions. And yet, if you ask anybody on the street, do you know about IoT? They're scratching their heads. Not even on the street. It could be an enterprise, right? They think, oh, yeah, no, we're not ready for that. But then you talk to them about AI, everybody knows Gen AI and what they can do.
yeah. Sorry, because you just asked me the question about how big is the problem, and I deviated from the topic because you gave me some new food for thought. But the thing is, yes, so initially I thought the biggest problem is that we do a pilot and then the pilot that it doesn't
Hmm.
scale. But later, when the AI hype, and just to be sure, when I say hype, I mean it in a positive way because people consider hype as a bad thing, but it's a good thing if the concept is meaningful and AI is meaningful. So when the AI hype started, I think 2 or 2.5 years ago, I saw how smart people, smart entrepreneurs, smart product managers, marketeers, they started to use AI as a brand name.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, they created this urgency effect. Everyone wants to figure out, hey, what I'm using AI for problem X, for problem Y. Let's figure out how I can use it for other problems.
Mm-hmm.
Even things, let's find more problems that we don't see as problem today and use AI for it. So that's when I started to realize that we have a bigger problem in IoT. It's not only that we do a pilot and then the pilot doesn't scale. The biggest problem is there are lots of pilots we don't do because customers don't know about IoT, or even when they hear it, it sounds like something that they don't hear about very often. So
Mm-hmm.
probably it's not urgent, is what they think. And yeah, I thought that that needs to be written, and you can do a quick check. Just approach a random person on the street and did you ever do something with AI? The answer is yes. Did you ever do something with IoT? And then get a question back like, what is it?
Absolutely. And I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about Abian AI. I had to stop, pause, and I was chuckling to myself because Abian AI by default means IoT plus AI because it's a device that is connected and has sensors. We add the algorithms because that's what AI is, algorithms on top of it. Ambient IoT has been around for a very long time. And I would say 90% of the population is using some form of ambient IoT and they don't even know it's ambient IoT. Our watches, the speakers, a lot of devices around the houses. But yet, I guarantee it, ambient AI will become more of a thing and ambient IoT ever was.
Yeah. Actually, you could understand this as like we people who
Mhm.
focus only on IoT and not AI, like companies in the value chain of IoT solutions. You could understand this that in a way that, hey, AI it's growing fast, so we could piggyback on the hype
Mhm.
and accelerate IoT adoption as well. I'm just not sure if we should rely 100% on piggybacking. I think that we need to watch and learn from the AI hype, the AI urgency, and
Mhm.
try to copy the same strategy for IoT solutions.
I agree with you. It's not the only strategy, but it is something we can do to get things going. But absolutely, we cannot depend on it. Now, a bit of a controversial question, rather, Afzal. Do you think we need to change the name of IoT to something else?
I'm not sure. I think some people say that IoT is complex, but
Hmm.
AI is complex as well.
Hmm.
4G is also complex if you have to explain it, or 5G. And there was a time when it was complex to explain Bluetooth or Wi Fi or even an app, even
Hmm.
something. So, from that perspective, I don't think we have to change it. But there is also another angle here. There is a negative sentiment in some corners of the industry when it comes to IoT. Some people don't like it. Some people are like, oh, that's something old. And there were big promises, and companies failed to deliver on those promises, so they don't want to hear about it anymore. If you look at it from that perspective, then it would make sense to change the name, to make it more attractive again for influencing companies, for analysts, for investors. It could be valid to do that. I'm just not sure if it's necessary because we could also maybe change the sentiment again, right?
And that takes us quite nicely back to your book and all the practical advice that you've given everyone. When I was reading through it, I think before we start recording the session, I told you is like if I was to write an IoT book, you've done it already. It is exactly what I would have liked to have when I started my journey creating an IoT company before I even built our platform. The steps that you outlined are things that it took me long time and various pivots to get there through trial and error. I find its practicality and the steps you've put amazing and very valuable for everyone. If folks, if you haven't read the book, highly recommend it. A funny story, I didn't manage to go to the Chelsea Flower Show this year, but I was watching on TV. One of the key things that they mentioned this year, they had smart gardens. And I got really excited. I'm like, smart garden, that's my kind of thing, right? You know what it ended up doing, and they were so excited to talk about. And then this would show us what we were talking about earlier, the awareness. They had a sensor on the tree trunk that was capturing moisture and environmental information. You know, if it's sunny, if it's wet, the CO2 and all that business. And I was like, is this it? I got excited, of course, but I'm like, we've been doing this for so many years. But then I realized that the broader awareness for the people, this is something that's new and exciting, which goes back to what we were saying. We haven't done a good enough job to propagate what we can do with the solutions that we have in practical ways, like putting a sensor on a tree in your garden so you can measure all those things.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Sometimes, like we are in 2025 now, and sometimes I see a new startup starting up, pre-seed
Mhm.
phase, building a IoT solution for smart parking management or smart farming, not knowing that some others already,
There's hundreds of them out there.
and they consider it as something new, something exciting, something promising.
Mhm.
It's so obvious that this is going to grow fast because companies need it. That's their spirit, their mentality,
Mhm. Mhm.
their drive. And that's why I think we can maybe change the sentiment back to a good sentiment of IoT because of
Yeah.
these.
Well, I agree with you, Afzal, that I think we are in a very pivotal, or rather crossroads, if you wish, for IoT, right? We can continue as we are, and big enterprises will continue implementing IoT, and the broader market will be oblivious. Or we can change the sentiment, like you said, and make it more mainstream. This is something, irrespective of what we end up calling it, if it's going to call it IoT, if we want to call it IoT plus I truly believe that everything will be connected and everyone will be augmented with AI on top of it. We cannot escape it.
Yeah, and that could be, if we have to pick another name, then
Mhm.
I was thinking about a connected business or a connected world.
This is what I've been calling it for many years. I dropped calling it IoT just because it wasn't getting me anywhere. So I started talking to people about connected services, connected devices, because they understood it more.
Yeah, exactly. That maybe sounds a bit more attractive and sexy. The abbreviation AI was never sexy,
Hmm.
but it achieved that status because all the successful AI use cases today, something that I also hoped for IoT, but maybe the phrase or slogan, like what some company CEOs do now, like, hey, I have a AI powered business operations. I'm super
Hmm.
efficient, or at least
Hmm.
I'm
AI first.
AI first. So, maybe we should introduce something or reintroduce what you already have been doing. Like, hey, I have a connected business operations now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
contributing to a more sustainable world by having connected business operations.
I like it. Let's propagate it.
Yeah,
I'm sure we can do this. We talked a little bit about the POCs, right? Proof of concepts, for those who don't know the acronym POC. And I've done quite a few myself, and I know you've done plenty as well. Why do we see that even a successful proof of concept POC doesn't scale afterwards, or rather doesn't translate to actual business? What has been your experience?
yeah. What I often see is that these pilots that we do, IoT pilots, they often feel more like side quests than a serious step forward
Mm-hmm.
for the organization. It's like, hey, we do have some additional innovation budget.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try out something new. And then we have a story to tell to our shareholders or to the board of management. But we don't necessarily have to proceed with it. That's what
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm bringing it in a very blunt way, but that's the summary. That's what I see very often. Like this tracking solution for a huge container company here in the Netherlands. Believe it or not, they are losing millions of euros on a monthly basis. Not thousands, not 10,000s, not 100,000s, millions. Because they simply do not know of each container where it is exactly.
What happens inside it?
In it.
Yeah.
So you'd say that when you introduce a physical solution that you just have to, you can save those millions a month and you can even think of more ways of profit, right? But this project was being led by an innovation manager in the organization who was more busy fighting the internal politics, getting the COO on board, getting the CTO on board, getting the CSO on board, than implementing this solution. Usually, I see that these projects are just considered as side projects. We have some innovation budget, let's do something with it. Of course, there are exceptions. Of course, there are also pilots that fail because the technology didn't work as expected, the battery doesn't last as long as we thought, or on SIM-based communication and not yet in those regions where we need it. But these pilots that fail because of technology limitations, I think they are very rare. It's not as many as those pilots that do not scale because of internal resistance. Like we don't feel enough urgency.
And even in your book, you had something very nice that I read. You referenced that the success of AI or AI first organization has been because they create internal communities and steering groups to implement it throughout the organization. A lot of companies are implementing those pilots as an innovation project rather than, finding internally the politics. But if it was a committee looking to implement a new service and there were people from the different departments part of that committee that will steer the project, could have more adoption and less like nice to try it out, let's move to the next thing, which I found fascinating that you capture that in your book.
Yeah, thanks. And this is something that you have also been proclaiming, of course, for years that you need to. It's about
Yeah.
involving the people.
Yeah.
But I've also seen that involving them is not enough because involvement means that, hey, there is Nasia or there's Afzal and they're going to implement this cool new solution in our organization. It's going to improve our efficiency. They are the owner. I'm not the owner. I'm just here to give my feedback. What I've also learned by now is that we need more than that. We need those people in the operations team, people in the technology team, people in the security team. They need to feel ownership. Like, hey, we are doing this together
Yeah.
because it's going to improve our business. And if it fails, it will be my fault because I'm an owner,
Yeah.
owner of the project. So it shouldn't be only in the hands of one innovation manager. That's a mistake. But that also boils down to the other point that I wrote in my book. And I wanted to ask you, I know this is like a podcast where you ask me questions,
Sure.
but I wanted to ask you a question as well, since you have so much experience in this field. I also wrote a chapter about hyper efficiency, this drive and motivation in the entire
Uh-huh.
organization to do things better, to do things more efficient, to make things, but also roles, not people, things and roles and processes obsolete. This should be in the DNA of an organization, right? And if they don't have it in the DNA, it's going to be tough to implement not only IoT solutions, but also AI solutions.
This is something I live and breathe on a daily basis these days around efficiency and making it more hyper. And it's necessary. And I love that chapter in your book. It was one of my favorite chapters, along with what you said about marketing. When it comes to hyper efficiency, why is it necessary? I think AI is propagating that shift to make it even faster because we get stuck on ways of doing things because we've always done it that way. It doesn't mean it still works, but it's comfortable. So that problem that we see why some companies are not implementing, efficiency or hyper efficiency is because it's more of a DNA. It's more like a psychological thing rather than something that is based on skills. because we've always done it this way. So we will continue because we don't want to make any waves. God forbid, my role will change, because if my role changes, I will become irrelevant. Of course, you will become irrelevant if you haven't taken the time to keep on top of what's happening, right? And it doesn't matter how much we try to put it on a box, how much we try to close the door so nobody sees us. AI has become the mirror that is going to shine on all of us, and we cannot hide anymore, and we cannot avoid it. If it's not happening this year, within the next 2 years, being prepared ahead of time. And what you mentioned on your book, the ones that are doing it, how efficient they are and how they don't waste their energy and resources, and everything moves faster. It was one of my favorite chapters for obvious reasons, because a lot of what I do is teaching people and helping people to become hyper efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's necessary. And this is not an AI, but we cannot escape it because it affects everything that we do, and it's going to affect everything that we do within IoT as well.
Yeah, it's a
And
great
it's going to
example.
show up. No,
Yeah.
no, no, it's working.
Yeah.
People will have to take actions, but I truly believe it's not a skills things, because skills can be learned.
Cultural
It
thing,
doesn't
right?
take time.
Yeah.
It's cultural. It's something that's more meant. It's from the mentality of the person, which obviously then it shows in the culture of the company.
Yeah. No, because something that I also realize is that culture still, that's why I think this hyper efficiency thing is super important, because culture even beats urgency. I've seen many situations that a company starts to do something just based on urgency.
Hmm.
I can give you one example.
Please.
I'm actually not allowed to talk about this, but I will try to do it without mentioning names. A couple of years ago in 19, there was one operator, a major global mobile network operator, introduced on Mobile World Congress the story that, hey, we are
Hmm.
going to support the integrated SIM right now. We are going to work together with the RM. So you don't have the physical SIM anymore. If you deploy your
Okay.
millions of IoT solutions, you just get the SIM already embedded, integrated in the semiconductor's chip.
Okay.
Another major global mobile network operator,
Hmm.
the CEO, heard about this at the Congress, and he was super pissed.
Why?
He said, hey, what, to his team, why don't we have this collaboration with ARM? Because the story sounded so obvious that the market needed it. And
Mm.
ARM, it's like an organization that you want to work together with, because they are almost inside every chip these days. The CEO was pissed of the other mobile network operator, and I knew that it was a storm in a glass of water. Meaningful, a non-meaningful. It's something like storm in a cup of tea in English.
I'm not familiar with the expression, but I like it.
But it's like a non-meaningful hype. Yeah.
Hmm.
Suddenly there was like 2 or 3 million euros for this project to copy paste this proposition or story that the other mobile network operator
Hmm.
presented at Mobile World Congress. So urgency doesn't always win. Doesn't.
And we've seen it with so many operators, right? Where the board or the CEO has said, oh, this is the thing that everybody says is the next shiny toy. I want it. And they push it down the chain, ups into some project manager and product manager that they have to own. I want it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they're trying to put something fast without doing proper analysis and demand analysis, or how to market it in their own organization, just because they have to fulfill. And then the same people, yeah, that gave the demand, they're like, we don't see any ROI on this. Wonder why. Well, let's fire those people down the chain that did the work, because they failed, obviously.
Yeah.
It's been something that I've seen it happening, and it's been a frustration in many ways, but we cannot escape it. I mean, I love our industry, but we have to fix a lot of things to become more competitive for the future.
We have to create our pipeline.
Absolutely. And I think the drive is AI. Everybody says, I'm implementing, I'm adopting, I'm becoming an AI first organization. Up till last year, it was like, we're moving from telco to techo. We do love our little words and funny things. And I'm like, well, it's 2024. And if you're now moving from a telecommunication company to a technology company, what have you been for the past 10 years? Right? So
You're also someone who say things that others don't say out loud.
that's why I liked your book.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Somebody has to. And I'm not going to apologize for it because it's the truth, or at least it's my truth, the way that I'm saying it. I don't mean to offend anybody. I just want to create awareness and I'm almost like a wake up call to people say, hey, this is happening.
Yeah.
And shall we talk a little bit about something that's become almost an Achilles heel in the IoT side of business, which is connectivity?
Oh, wow.
You
Okay.
know?
I avoided this topic in my
I
book, but
know
let's
you
talk about
did.
it.
But you had it on your first book. You spoke extensively of how we concentrate too much on the connectivity side on your first book. I mean, I don't want to take a long time, but I don't connectivity is necessary for any IoT, any connected service. That be it mobile or be it LoRaWAN or be it Wi-Fi or whatever, right? It's necessary. We cannot escape it. Yet, I think within the telco community, we concentrate on mobile connectivity for obvious reasons. And I think that's become our Achilles heel because many organizations haven't been able to move past it. They haven't been able to move up the value chain, and they're still stuck peddling data, which has been commoditized so much that very few of them are making money.
The telcos themselves, right?
The telecoms themselves, the MNOs, the MVNOs, even specialized companies are very few in between nowadays that will say will want to do connectivity. Personally, one of the things that I'm very happy I didn't do is get into the connectivity game. It would have been the easy thing to get into IoT so many years ago, but I'm like, no, too many people are doing this.
I cannot talk for all connectivity suppliers out there. And let's be clear, I'm now limiting my answer to mobile network operators because, I mean, the
Yes.
LoRaWAN operators are also connectivity suppliers. And then there is a difference between a global mobile network operator and a local mobile network operator. Because, like in some countries, yesterday I had an interesting chat with a company from New Zealand, an end to end IoT solution provider. They provide devices, they even build their own devices, they provide their own software platform, and they are very successful. Why are they successful? Because they work together a lot with a local mobile network operator. For them, Narrowband IT and LTM are the big promises, and they are already delivering on those promises. While in Europe and in the US, people make fun of you when you start to praise Narrowband IT and LTM,
Yeah.
people around me. And for them, it's the other way around um, because they have a very strong and good collaboration and relationship with a local mobile network operator. Apparently, there are some smaller local mobile network operators who found out that it makes sense to work with smaller companies and get out of the connectivity slump. Apparently successful with it. But on a more global level, what is not an exception is that they are still struggling with that. At least I have the idea that some of those big MNOs, they are finally realizing that, hey, we cannot create the next IoT unicorn beyond connectivity. We tried to work together with smaller companies. I'm actually one of those smaller companies, IoT creator, and we are not going to proceed with it. But you also can see how it ended up
Yeah.
with Vodafone and Grand Centrix, for example.
Yeah.
I have the feeling that at least big MNOs start to realize that we cannot do it, not even if we work together with smaller companies for some reason. So let's just stick to megabytes, gigabytes, kilobytes. And by doing that, at least they are not, it's clearer. They are not creating a fuzz anymore in the market. I think it's already a big thing that they're going back to their roots, to their basics. but they will get into trouble because everyone knows that you cannot stay profitable by only selling megabytes, kilobytes.
Mm-hmm.
Players do not know how to become more efficient, how to decrease their operations cost,
Yeah.
how to make their sim management platforms smarter, more
Mm-hmm.
modern, because that could be the thing to reduce your cost and stay profitable.
Mm-hmm.
So short answer, no, I don't think that the big MNOs are doing a better job right now, but at least they know their place.
The staying in the lane, that's for sure.
There are some
Well, it's good to hear that there are some exceptions. That should be comforting for a lot of the smaller companies out there to realize, hey, we can still provide a service that will be of value. And also, we cannot skip marketing, which was a big chapter in your book as well.
true.
Do you think we've done a good job marketing our services and solutions in IoT?
No, not at all. There are some exceptions. I
Mm-hmm.
think one of those exceptions is the things industries, not in the
Mm-hmm.
cellular world. And I
Mm-hmm.
think one reason or the biggest reason why LoRa is where it is today is because of them. Did it
Mm-hmm.
in, you know, the thing is with marketing is that when you say marketing, they think about um, taking care of social media, writing a newsletter, or showing up at an event, right? But these are exactly things industries didn't focus on in the early days. They focused on community building. That's
Yeah.
their way of doing marketing, making their service easy to use for tinkerers,
Mm-hmm.
talking to their audience like a human being and not like a company was their way of doing marketing, and it still is. The other thing with marketing, and this is a generic problem, not only in IoT, it's a problem that comes back in all types of companies across all the different industries. Everyone thinks they understand marketing. It's just social media, showing up at an event, writing a newsletter.
Yeah.
Unlike sales, hunting and getting a signature from your customer, that's very tough. It's a difficult job. So you will have fewer people who will claim that they know everything about sales. Same goes for technology. If you're not into technology, you cannot claim that you understand everything about it because it will become very apparent when you start to talk about it that you don't know about
Yeah.
technology, about the bits and the zeros and the ones.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing, everyone is like, hey, we understand it. That's why it's also the most neglected and most ignored thing in most companies, not only in IoT. It hurts us a lot because I believe that currently it's the most important thing in
Yes.
IoT. So if there is one industry that shouldn't neglect or ignore IoT, one industry that shouldn't be like, hey, we understand, we can do it ourselves, we don't need a CMO, then it's the IoT industry.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I think the example that you've given about building a community, that is the key, not only for now, but it's what is going to keep companies, not just IoT companies, sustainable in the future. Having the audience, having a community, having the people that can talk on your behalf and propagate your message. Like you said, we think the market is just social media and newsletter, is a branding and so on and so forth, but it is bigger than that. That's the surface. It needs to come from the soul of the company, the soul of the organization, and what you're doing within your community, how you engage your community. I'm not going to turn this into a marketing tutorial. Don't worry. It's important what you said, the difference between people that know technology and people that know sales, and how we don't pretend to know more than we do. Yet in marketing, everybody is an expert because we have a LinkedIn channel or a Twitter channel and we have many followers. The interesting thing is that it's changing now so fast. It was never in many companies that have been successful separate, but sales and marketing, they've merged more than ever and they will continue to merge more than ever for inbound and outbound.
Yeah.
AI is propagating that faster. It's making more of a necessity of owning our audience and having a community. Industries are well ahead of the curve. You tell me now within the telcos, like let's say any of the MNOs, where is the community?
Yeah.
They have thousands of customers, yet no community.
The most important thing is the foundation for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you neglect or ignore marketing and you are selling sneakers or ties
Mm-hmm.
or these things, smartphones, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
hurt. The market is mature. They
Mm-hmm.
understand why they need it. They understand that it exists. But in a market for a product or a concept that is still unknown, vague, it hurts
Mm-hmm.
if you ignore marketing.
Yeah. So, Afzal, I have a last question for you. It's been phenomenal. I think we can have many of this and still not really go through all the details that you covered in your book. But if I were to give you 10 million today, here's 10 million, where would you bet it on IoT?
I asked my big friend ChatGPT for this question and I didn't like the answer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What our friend ChatGPT said is put it in a niche and become champion at it, dominate, grow, and
Hmm.
scale. That's usually how you grow a business. And it's also what I just said about the things industry. They
Yeah.
created a community out of their niche, became good at
Hmm.
it, and after that they scaled. So you'd say I should do something like that as well if I have 10 million.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't.
What would you do?
I'm just, I still have so much passion for the concept of IoT in the
Hmm.
broadest way. So it's
Hmm.
not that I only like solutions for smart cities, solutions only for smart water
Hmm.
management, solutions only for agriculture or security or safety or healthcare. It's not that I only like narrowband IoT because it's so cool, and if you roll it out in the proper
Hmm.
way as a MNO, you can do so many things with it. I still like IoT in the broadest sense, like in a horizontal way of use
Hmm.
case. I was so excited about it because it has so much potential to solve the biggest problems in the world, and we are not there yet. We are
Hmm.
still very far away from it. What I would do if I had 10 million now, I would put it in creating a company that is going to create urgency for IoT all over the world, that is going to collaborate with all the people in my network, all the companies in my network, those solution providers who sell agriculture solutions, who sell safety solutions, healthcare solutions, create urgency and accelerate.
Like a marketplace or an agency that propagates other people's solutions.
So I would build an agency or company that is going to create urgency for IT. I mean, you said it would be a bet, right? The 10 million bet. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Because you never know. Everything is a bet in the end of the day. I think you never know if something you could launch something this year and fall flat, and somebody else launches the same thing next year. But the awareness is there from the work that you've done and they're successful. You never know. It's always a bet when it comes to business. But I would join you in that quest, on your 10 million, because I'm a big believer that this will work because there's so many wonderful solutions out there. Create a marketplace and propagate the message, put it in places that need it. Afzal, thank you so much for joining me today. Yeah, it's been a blast speaking with you. I hope we can do this again. But for people that want to get in touch, where can they find you?
I have my website, afzalmangal.com. I have my contact details there. You can also look me up on LinkedIn. It should be easy to find there.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's where you can find me. If people are inspired after listening to us, then they really should read the book.
Absolutely. And I will put your details of where they can buy this wonderful book in the show notes so people can easily get in touch with you. Folks, I don't recommend a lot of things, but this one, it's got so many wonderful things to learn, especially if you're thinking about connected services, IoT services, even AI. The step by step guides can go wrong. So go get the book. I'll put the details on the show notes.
Thanks.
And thank you so much for listening. We hope you found that valuable. Until next time, stay connected.